Hi there, welcome to Sport Talk, brought to you today by Castrol Edge. My name's Ashley House. Now, with England preparing for what is their first game against Wales since 2005, what better excuse do we need to get a couple of football's finest pundits in the studio to preview that huge game, as well as some of the other big clashes in the qualifying groups. In the studio with me today, we've got former England manager Glenn Hoddle and former England and Chelsea coach, player Ray Wilkins. So welcome to the show, guys. Very good to have you with us. Coming up on the show today, this is what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be previewing that England against Wales match. We're also going to be looking at some of the other big Euro 2012 qualifying fixtures and Castrol's Edge rankings, who's at the top of their game at the moment. We're also going to be having a chat about the Champions League quarter-final draw. Remember, we are live today, so if you want to get your questions through to Glenn and to Ray, do use the box that's on your screen. If you're using Twitter, then the hashtag is CastrolFootball. That's hashtag CastrolFootball. Right, guys, let's start off with the first one then. England against Wales. Obviously, Ray, the expectation is that England will have an easy win. Is it going to be that easy, do you think?
I don't think it will be that easy. No, we're without Steven Gerrard, of course, who can't make it through injury, having that groin operation. We're playing in Wales. The stadium will be absolutely packed, great atmosphere. I expect us to win. We've got far more experience. But I know they're struggling. They're in a transitional period, are the Welsh. New manager, of course, with David going in there, Gary going in there. And it's difficult for them because they're a young side, but they do have some quality in there. Over the last couple of years, their under-21 team has been very, very good indeed.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a bit more about the under-21s. But Glenn, in terms of the atmosphere, Wales have really struggled to sell tickets. I think they're only like 18,000 for a couple of the other games, but they've sold out the Millennium Stadium, 69,000 people. It's a heck of an atmosphere there. How much does that matter?
It is. I mean, it's they'll respond. You want them players to respond, but you know the England players will respond to that sort of atmosphere as well. Although it'll be heavily based from a Welsh point of view, but the players have, the English players have played in front of the bigger the crowd, the better they'll perform. It will be a tricky game for them. Certainly the first half an hour. I think if Wales were to score, then I think that would be a real uphill struggle for England. But I think if they can quell that, get off to a good start, England, I don't see any problems at all. But you've got to give any international football. You've got to give any team all the respect that you have to give them when you play away from home. It will not be easy when it comes to 3 o'clock kick-off time. There'll be a proper game on.
It can go one of two ways as well, Ash. Of course, the Welsh boys are young lads. And with that crowd in there, expecting a performance from them, that could either petrify them or put them into a good space. But we'll wait and see.
Obviously, I mean, I know there's so many cliches with football. One, Glenn, you mentioned about the early goal and silence in the crowd and all that kind of stuff. Does it really work like that? But that whole thing about what a great time to score that was. It always occurred to me.
I think silence in the crowd. We've always said that, Glenn, haven't we? Whenever you've gone out and you're playing against a big nation in a big stadium, the first 20 minutes is vitally important. If they score in that period, more often than not, you're going to be under the cosh for a long period. But if you can just quell that, and for the first 20 minutes keep them nice and quiet, more often than not, you've got half a chance.
I think the game, this particular game, everyone's expecting England to win. And if they go there and in the first 5 minutes score, I think that's the game over. I really do. Yeah, as a spectacle, the Welsh should be going there, there'll be 60-odd thousand and they'll be expecting maybe just to pull off a miracle. Now, the longer that game goes at 0-0, the more difficult it becomes for the favourites and the pressure builds up on them. So the early goal in these circumstances, or not conceding in many ways for England, will be vital to winning the points.
Okay, everyone's going to talk about Gareth Bale, obviously, and I'm going as a former Spurs player yourself, you would have watched him, and I'm sure a huge admirer. Who else have we got to look out for? Aaron Ramsey, are there other people as well?
Yeah, I think Ramsey, and if Bellamy's fit, I think, I don't know whether he's going to be able to play or not, but Ramsey's a good young player. What he hasn't had is enough experience, maybe. With Arsenal, he's been out on loan and he had the injury. So as Ray said earlier, it might work against some of the youngsters if that pressure pot in that stadium builds up too much on them. But he's a good prospect without doubt. But the pick of the bunch at the moment is Gareth Bale. Again, Ray has been injured as well.
Yeah, terrific footballer. But Joe Ledley as well at the moment, scoring goals for Celtic also from the middle of the pitch. So that's one we'll have to watch for from the middle of the field as well. But Gareth Bale has been absolutely magnificent, hasn't he? Now, when he tore Inter Milan apart, not on one occasion, on 2 occasions, that's not easily done when you're playing against a fullback of Maicon's experience. And yet he was absolutely outstanding.
I think it was important for Gary Speed as manager that he actually got 90 minutes under his belt at the weekend, because he's been out. He's been injured, hasn't he? And he's not quite as sharp as he has been. But that 90 minutes for him, I mean, Harry won't be looking at it like that because he's now going to go off on international duty. But for him personally and for the Welsh team, that's a good 90 minutes well and truly under his belt.
What about the youngsters for England? What about Jack Wilshere, for example? I mean, I remember watching him when he was 15 at Arsenal Reserves, and Arsene Wenger was in the crowd, and the camera just focusing on Arsene Wenger, and you just saw him think. You almost saw his head go, "Oh, hello, we might have one here." Where does he stand if you're going to compare sort of Bale and Ramsey and to Jack Wilshere?
I think you only had to look at his performance in the Camp Nou the other night against Barcelona. I thought he was the only player, in actual fact, from the Arsenal team that came out with any credit. I thought he was absolutely terrific. Even when it was hot, he wanted the ball. He tried to get it back. He was aggressive. He was fit. And I think Wilshere is really one for the future. He's terrific.
He's a wonderful player, very stylish player, elegant player when the ball's on his left foot. What I like about him, he shows a lot of maturity in his positions that he picks up. You know, he's very cute in coming behind the ball. Things like that take years sometimes for a midfield player, to experience that and go through it. But he picks up some lovely positions, always available. And sometimes you see him, he'll run behind the ball where it's a problem then for a defender to come and mark him, because you don't want to go across the line of the ball. And he picks up lots of possession facing the opposition. For me, that's really cute as a young player. And then he's got the ability to pick the passes that he does. So we're hoping that he's going to have a great game next week.
You look at the introduction, Ash, as well, of Matt Jarvis.
Yeah.
You know, Matt only a few years ago was playing for Gillingham.
Yeah.
That was a great buy that Mick's done it in bringing him to Wolves. But he really has blossomed into, you know, a real decent winger. 2 feet, so he can go on the outside, he can come inside and put the ball in. And, you know, for him to have achieved what he's done this year in a Wolves side that's had their problems is remarkable. And it's a nice little tribute from Capello to actually bring him into the squad.
Yeah, and he scored a hell of a goal at the weekend.
Good goal, wasn't it? Yeah.
He's coming into the squad with a lot of confidence.
Absolutely.
Let's have a quick look at the table, guys, as well. Montenegro obviously on top, but they've played the extra game. Would you still expect England to sort of qualify as top of that group,
Yes.
or do you think it's not going to be quite as easy as people are assuming?
No, I think looking at the group from day one, I felt that there was only one spot England are going to come out on, and that's the number 1 spot. It's easy to say, you've got to go and get the points on the board, but looking at the opposition, any away game in international football, as Ray would tell you, is a tough game. Wherever you go, you have to earn the right to play, you have to earn the right to get the result. But I can only see England winning all them games at home. I can't see any of them teams taking any points away from England at Wembley. I really can't. So I think we'll get enough points on the board.
Well, certainly the Castrol stats seem to say, when you look at it, England's likelihood of winning 63%, Wales 15%, draw 22%. If you were a betting man, Ray, would that be roughly how you'd see the odds going?
I think so. I think that's just about right, to be perfectly honest, Ashley. I don't see. I don't really give Wales too much of a chance against our lads, I'd have to say. Yeah,
OK, let's have a look at some of the other big games that we've got coming up as well then. First of all, Italy. Now, obviously, Ray, you've got a lot of experience from the Italian game. Where would you sort of put the Italian game, the league and their national team at the moment? How would you see where they're sort of faring?
Cesare Prandelli at the moment has got a big problem in that the football itself within Serie A is not in a good place, and it's not going too well at the moment. So from that perspective, the players aren't really playing with the utmost confidence. You look at the football in Italy, there's no one in the stadiums because of the television situation that it has happened in Italy. The real surprise to me is Serbia being in 5th place. Now the Serbians have got some really good footballers playing in and around Europe. Some fantastic footballers. You know, you've only got to look at Vidic at Man U, Ivanovic at Chelsea. They really are some talented lads. That really surprises me where they are.
So Italy playing Slovenia. Glenn, as Ray said, the Italian team necessarily and the Italian game in general is not in the best state. But where do you see that game going to Italy against Slovenia?
You've got to say Italy. I think Slovenia are a very creative side. You know, we've seen that in the World Cup, and they'll have a lot of confidence going into that. But it's a game that Italy have got to win. You know, being at home, and it's one of those games. As Ray says, they're not at their best at the moment, but you would think that they would have enough to beat Slovenia. As I say, they've got some talented players, and you have to be wary of them because they have got ability to carve you open and can cause you a lot of problems. But I think at home Italy have got to win that one.
And always with the Italians as well, Ashley, you've got 4-10 against 1.
Yeah.
Defensively, they'll always set themselves up in a fine fashion, hard to beat.
Yeah, and that's still the case now, is it?
Still the case, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
part of their DNA. Isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. Again, though, here it was the stats, the Castrol stats have got Slovenia, I suppose, because they are the home side. They're a slight favourites, 36% compared to Italy's 34%. In terms of going to Eastern Europe, I know it's not quite the same as it was necessarily in your day, guys, but going to Eastern Europe was always, and I'm not being rude by that. I'm not being rude by that. You know what I mean? It was much more closed.
We had a wall to get over.
Well, that's right. Yeah, you had the Iron Curtain to get through. But Slovenia, Estonia, all those places. How difficult is it going out? I mean, obviously there's the temperature difference and stuff as well. But are the crowds different? Are the pitches different? Is it?
I think the main thing will be the pitch. If there's a good pitch, I'd go with the draw all day long.
Right.
If the Italians playing away from home, I don't see Italy getting beaten too often when they go on their travels, because they will set themselves up defensively so strong. If the pitch is decent, if they can start rolling the ball around. But if it's a poor pitch, then you never know what might happen.
I mean, Slovenia, if you remember, they beat Russia to qualify, didn't they? And that was a good win. They can be dangerous. They're a dangerous team to play against in a tournament, on a one-off situation, or on a big key game. So for them to go and beat Russia obviously means Italy have got a hard task on their hand. But out of that group, you've got to still say you feel that Italy will be the number one team.
Okay, Italy obviously in the past have been a big team. These days, though, it's Spain, isn't it? Glenn, how good is this Spain team?
There's only one team better than them on the planet, and that's Barcelona. And most
Very
of the team
comic,
is Barcelona.
Yeah.
If you had Messi and Alves, I think Barcelona just shade it actually.
Yeah.
But no, I mean they're a wonderful, wonderful football team. They really are, and to win the World Cup and do what they've done in the style that they've done it, you can only see them winning this group. There's no doubt about that. This is a special team. There's a lot of young lads in my academy that we've seen. And I've said Barcelona and Spain, you're very lucky lads to see a generation. You're in a generation that's seen a very special side, Ray, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Both teams.
Yeah, Ray. We've just had a live question actually coming from Jamie. Thanks for that. Don't forget. You can get questions in to Ray and to Glenn using the hashtag CastrolFootball on Twitter, or just on the box on your screen right now. Arsenal taught another masterclass, Jamie says, Ray, by Barcelona. Is there any other team in history that plays and dominates a game as well as Barcelona do? Or are they simply mesmeric and out of this world?
We've always had wonderful football teams. The Brazil team of 70, I'd go back to a lot of, you guys probably wouldn't even remember them, Ash, but they were a wonderful team. But I think what this team has, not only in possession are they wonderful, but out of possession, they're prepared to work as well. I think the Sacchi team of AC Milan would probably be one of the closest out of possession in how hard they worked to get it back and how good they were in possession. But this Barcelona team, when I saw them play against Real Madrid about a month ago, I thought they took the game to a different planet. It was almost a different level of football they played.
It's incredible. I mean, they don't need a centre-half. The centre-half doesn't pass any... when I say I don't need a centre-half, they don't need to play any balls long. Right. If you look at the stats, it's everything so short, and it's incredible how they build from the back right the way through the pitch and get their main men on the ball in the right positions. And as Ray says, they lose it and they press so hard. Their training, I was listening to a couple of guys talking about how they trained. I think it was Mascherano, and he said the only training they do is pressing of the ball. They know they're very good on the ball. He said every single day Guardiola spends half an hour where it's press, 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 win the ball. I don't know how they win it off each other though sometimes. Perhaps they get the youth team in to do it against. But it's press, press, and they know they're the best team in the world. They know the techniques, they know the shape and the style of play. It's a defensive side that they purely work on, and that surprised me a little bit, I must say. But as you say, Ray, they win it back so quickly.
What is it that there are lots of teams that dominate possession a little bit like Barcelona, maybe not quite as much, but what is it about Barca that means that they can actually almost always, Ray, turn it into goals and into victories? I mean, Arsenal dominate games, don't they? But don't necessarily
have the players as well, actually. In Messi, this young man, we talk about rotation and using players. This guy plays every game. He plays every game for Argentina, every game for Barcelona. There's not a lot of rotation goes on with Barcelona. They actually play, and as Glenn made the best point, they get the right players in right areas where they can damage people. And their movement is such that you've always got 3 or 4 options in possession of the ball. So it's very seldom do they give it away. And they are a wonderful outfit.
They have got such a flexible front three. Whoever's playing, you know, if it's Villa, if it's Pedro and Messi, they're never in the same position. That you find them drifting into new positions all the time. Such talented players, but they've got that license to really make that movement. And then when you've got 2 players like Iniesta and Xavi behind you, just popping balls through, and the way they bend their runs. Good, young centre forwards out there should look at the way they make their runs and the timing of it. They never go straight. They always bend their run first and then they go in. And they've got the providers as well. So, and we're talking about Barcelona more than Spain, but it's pretty much the same team.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things about Spain, of course, is that Cesc Fabregas, who many would argue is one of the best players in the Premier League, right? Doesn't even get a look in really there, does he? So when you see those stats there and you look at 70% chance of winning Spain, 10% the Czech Republic, they're no mugs, the Czech Republic, but to say 10%, just what does it say about Spain?
I think Peter Cech's going to be a busy guy, I have to say. But no, Spain are just wonderful at this moment in time. I think if you go right through under 21, 19s, 20s, they've got the same crop all coming through. They've got a great crop coming. It's a very, very good time for Spanish football. Very good. Yeah,
indeed. Okay, let's move on to the next one here. This is one of the tightest groups, definitely, in terms of qualification. Norway are playing against Denmark this week. Portugal, obviously, in between them as well. Where do you see the Scandinavian teams at the moment, Glenn? Where's Scandinavian football heading? I know it's...
They've always been strong. They've always been difficult to play against. I mean, England over the years have always had... Sweden's always been a problem to England over the years. Norway and Denmark, they're going to be physical. They're going to be fit. Technically, they're a little bit behind still, but they do come up with some special players every now and again. That's the key to them. Technically, they've got some special players over the years. Simonsen of yesteryear, and Norway have always produced good players. But this is a Scandinavian, sort of derby match as such. It can go either way. That could go either way. I haven't seen Denmark too much, but I know Norway are always a strong side.
Again, the stats there. Then Norway 47%, Denmark 26%. Norway, a lot of that will be based on the fact that they're playing at home. I
think that is the case, Ashley, and I think I don't know. The draw stands out for me, I've got to say. A lot of these, I think they're so close, these guys, whether it be at home, whether it be away. I think the draw is the likely result. Don't keep sitting on the fence, actually.
No, that's fair enough.
I think that is probably the draw.
One of the things with the group that we've just looked at, with obviously Portugal in there, and the group we looked at before with Spain, and we had a question from Castrol's Facebook community, actually, from Matt Lynch, who says, do you think that seeding for the qualifiers gives the smaller nations pretty much no chance of getting to the big tournaments? And then a correlative of that is, does it hinder the larger nations from improving? Because the route to the finals is so easy, the standard of competition for them in the groups is actually quite low, Glenn. How would you agree with Matt?
I don't think it's easy for the European situation. I think those groups are tougher. You always have maybe an easier side in the group, but I don't think it's an easy. Certainly, when you get to the finals, it's almost like the World Cup last 16. That's the quality of it. But how are the minnows ever going to improve if they're cast aside? A lot of people have said about they should go through a prelim and the one team goes through, but football's about the whole family, and I think the minnows, if you like, your Faroe Islands, they're improving. And the reason they're improving is because they're playing against. They might get beat. In years gone by, and Ray, we played in the game. I'm sure you played. We beat Norway. I think it was 7 or 8-1 at Wembley. Those days are gone. Those days are gone. They've got better and better, and the smaller teams are getting better. They can only get better by playing against the big boys, the big fish, and the big sides then might have to look at some younger players, and it's a nice time to sort of nurse them in, but. You want world football to get, and European football, as we're talking about now, you want it to get the standard to get higher and better, and it's the only way to do it. Is
that ever going to happen, right? Do you agree with Glenn that the Faroe Islands, the San Marinos of the world, the Cypresses, are they really improving? I think
it's important as well from an individual's perspective as well. You might get 1 or 2 players within that team that are an exceptional standard. Now, as Glenn says, if they're not playing against the best, they're never going to improve. They're never going to be seen to be taken out of that football and play at a higher level. So from an individual perspective, it's better that these guys do get the opportunity to play against a big fish.
Yeah. You talked about some of the individuals. Glenn, obviously you work with the academy, your academy in Spain. How do the academies maybe scout in those small nations? Is there a way of trawling through the youngsters in the Faroe Islands and San Marino to try and get them?
It's funny you should say the Faroe Islands. We've had 2 players that the FA, the Faroe Islands, the Federation, have sent to us, and they had 6 months with us to improve and develop. And they've gone back, and one of them now is in the first team. He was under 21 when he came to us. And so we've had 2 of those guys come down. We've got other federations of smaller federations that are prepared to send us some players down because of the experience that we got and the development that we're doing at the academy. It's not about just playing match. It's developing players and improving players. And so yeah, Faroe Islands is something we've connected up, and there's other countries. There's a few from the Middle East that we've linked into as well. Right. So I think it's a great opportunity for them.
Ray, question coming for you from Alex, who says, why don't England ever play a 4-4-2 with Lampard and Lampard advanced, Gerrard defensive, Lennon and Walcott on the wings and Crouch and Rooney up front? That would kill everyone.
Well, we'd like to think it would kill everybody, but as we've seen in the last World Cup, when you're playing against the size of the technical ability of the Spanish, when you play the 2 in there, it becomes very difficult when you don't have the ball because you never see the ball. That's the problem. And we've had a few problems, and as simple as it is, if Glenn and I was playing and Glenn was further forward, then I would cover Glenn and vice versa. Not that I got too much in advance of Glenn, I'd have to say. But that's the way it functions, and that's the way that wide players, they tuck in when the ball's on the other side of the pitch, and it is pretty logical stuff. And I do agree to a large degree. 4-4-2. We saw Manchester United play Chelsea at Stamford Bridge the other night. And it was just it was a bit of a throwback, really. It was up and at them. You attack, we attack. But I think if you play international football in that manner, especially against the better teams, then you'll get punished big time.
I think that's the problem with. I personally, I've always said it, and I was in the position of having to pick a team for England and go to the World Cup. Yeah. I played 5 in midfield. I played 3 at the back when we were in possession, and I think, ran myself played. Many games, and I remember a game against Spain at Wembley I played in. They had Buchagania up front, they had 5 in midfield, and we didn't see the ball. We lost 2-1, and we were chasing shadows, playing 4-4-2. And many games like that happened, and we didn't have enough bodies in there, one to keep it, and to win it back. And I think it's a problem to us at the moment. I think Lampard, Pursley and Gerrard are made for 3 in midfield. However you want to play that, if you want to play it 3 at the back and 2 up front, or you want to go 4-3-3 or 5 across, those 2 with a sitting player behind are absolutely tailor-made to then get in the box and do what they're good at. And I think this is a problem. I don't see us winning anything if we stick to a rigid 4-4-2. Barcelona play with a back 4, but they don't play 4-4-2. No. Arsenal play with a back 4, but you can't see their shape. It's not a 4-4-2 when they've got the ball. Too many times in the World Cup, in my opinion, you could see the shape when we're in possession, and it was too easy to shut down, and that was our problems.
I mean, you mentioned that particular game when Spain played 5 in midfield. As a manager or a coach, Ray, when you see that happening from the sidelines, how easy is it to be flexible with the players, or is it difficult because you've practiced everything down to such a tight degree?
Well, you do, but you've got to have flexibility also when you're training and coaching as well, and normally against teams that that are going to monopolise the ball, then you have to set your stall out totally different, and that's Chelsea as well as England. When we played against Arsenal, we would function, especially playing away from home, we would function slightly different than we would if we went to or played at Stamford Bridge. Yeah. So you do have to mix and match, but it's also having the personnel to do it. You've got to be very fortunate when you go into a job that the personnel are there to be able to perform to the level and be able to be quite flexible. And you as a coach and Glenn as a manager would have to look upon it as well. And you do have to have the foresight to say, well, hang on a second, this isn't quite working. Now we need to change something and get cracking in a different mode. So you do have to be flexible, yeah.
In international football, it's difficult to do that. I think we should be further down the line in playing some different systems and knowing what to do and the players to just adjust into a system. That's harder to get that when you're not with them daily, like a club
Yeah.
manager. That's the real crux of international management, the negative side. But I think after you've been with them a couple of years, the players should know. That's what your training camp's about. That's the extra time that you're given now when you play, when you're together for 2 games. By now, if we're going to play with a 5 in midfield, or we're going to play with a 3 up front, or if we do go into a 3 at the back, I don't see that flexibility with England at the moment. I think we're very rigid in the way that we're playing.
Okay, I want to move away from international football just briefly. You mentioned Chelsea against Manchester United, Ren. We're going to see that again, of course. A question coming from the goal.com website that says, is international football in decline compared to the Champions League? And as I said, we're going to see Manchester United against Chelsea in the Champions League. Would you agree with that, Ray? Is international football in decline?
Well, I don't think it's in decline as such, but the Champions League is such a wonderful competition that it seems to have taken over international football. I won't say international. I'd never say international football's in decline, because that's the pinnacle of your career, whether it be as a player, whether it be as a coach, whether it be as a manager.
Is it still?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You want to play for your national team.
Yeah.
And you want to play as much as you possibly can for them as well. But there's so much football being played at the moment, you know, and injuries being picked up. But the Champions League is such a wonderful competition that it does tend to overshadow what's going out there in international football.
We've got another question here as well, Glenn, from Sport Express and Championat.ru, asking similarly. We talk about Spurs and the Champions League, saying, how do you rate the Russian players in the Premier League? Believ, Danov, Arshavin, Pavlyuchenko and Zhirkov, and which order would you put them on, and how they're doing and why? Maybe not do that, but how do you think the Russian players are fitting in?
I think they're doing okay. I think the players you've just said there have done well. They've not, what I would say, excelled. They're not at the top of the tree in the Premiership at the moment. They do find it difficult to maybe adjust to the way that we play and possibly live even, you know, because when you do move abroad, Ray and myself were lucky enough to move abroad, it's how you settle off the pitch, which is the key to how you're going to perform on it. And maybe that's been a little bit more of a slight problem for them. But they've done well, and there's some good players. You know, Pavlyuchenko for Tottenham, you know, he comes on as sub and changes things 9 times out of 10. He did it again against West Ham, was unlucky to create, you know, nearly created a couple of goals for. And Arshavin's pretty similar, comes on from the bench and gets affection from the bench. You know, he affects the game from the bench probably more than when the pressure's on him starting.
Right.
So they're doing well, but progress report is they can do better.
And still talking about Spurs, Real Madrid, easy game for Harry Redknapp's men, or
easy game? Yeah, I wish there was. No, it's a wonder. I think personally, it's a wonderful draw for Tottenham, because I would have worried if they'd have got Schalke, because everyone at White Hart Lane would have said we can get through to the semis here.
Quite.
The pressure would have been on them, whereas the pressure's been taken right off. Real Madrid are Real Madrid, you know. There's only one Real Madrid, but the fact that they've got the second leg at White Hart Lane, Ray, I think is a real key for me. They can do it. If they've done it against Inter, they can do it against Madrid.
They've still got to be in the tie after the Bernabeu.
Right.
That's the important part.
Yeah.
That's not being negative. That's doing what they did in Milan. And that's playing with the ball when they can play with the ball, and playing with it in their half of the pitch as well, and using their attributes they've got. Milan were taken aback when Asao Koto kept putting it from left back onto Peter Crouch's head. They thought, my word. And because the 3 forward players of Milan wouldn't work hard enough to shut him down, he kept getting ball in after ball. And if Peter Crouch is available, hit him. So long as you've got runners going in that box to get on the end of it. And I think Tottenham have got a decent chance against Madrid.
I do.
Madrid have got what's his name? Is it Mourinho? Is that right? Someone like that? I mean, he's fairly canny though, isn't he? Glenn, he might have noticed that Crouch might play up front and he's a 6'7" or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, he's not playing no Mourinho, is he?
No, quite.
No, he's got a vast amount of talent. Let's be fair. Real Madrid are still a wonderful team. It's only that Barcelona are so far in advance of them. I've watched them a lot this year. They have their moments. They have some fantastic players in that team, and Spurs are going to have to play like they did against Inter Milan at home and AC Milan away. They're going to have to give themselves a 9 out of 10 performance to get through the 2 ties. But Mourinho will come up with something, but I think he'll just be simply thinking, he'll know it'll be such a tough game at White Hart Lane. He's going to have to go there with a lead. And I personally can see, the way Harry sets his team up is to be admired. You know, he'll still go there and have an attack them. And I can see Spurs getting an away goal, which would be absolutely, you know, mammoth for them. It really would.
And Madrid might be without Ronaldo,
Yeah.
They might be. Who's a massive player for them.
Yeah.
Massive. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that one.
Yeah, that's right. Well, funnily you should mention Ronaldo, actually. The Castrol rankings for the top 10 performing players in the European leagues. Ronaldo comes in second behind Leo Messi. Are there any surprises for you on that list? You've got Messi at the top, then Ronaldo, Gonzalo Higuain, another Real Madrid player, then Frank Lampard in fourth.
Gomez is one I've always liked. It's funny, I didn't know he was number 5 there, but Gomez is the lad up front for Bayern who's strong, but he's got his mobility. He scores goals. He is a real handful. He's got everything as a striker. In
an underperforming Bayern Munich side
well,
as well.
Absolutely, that's right. And as a striker, you're always, you're waiting on the service you're going to be given. And this lad has had a really good season, and I've always liked him. And it's interesting to see him at number 5 there, right?
I'm surprised to see Florian Malouda.
Yep.
Where's Gareth Bale? Actually, what number is Gareth Bale?
I
know he's had his injury problems.
He?
Yeah, he has, but Frank Lampard's been out for 2.5 months.
Yeah. Well, Higuain has been out at Real Madrid most of the season.
But how Gareth Bale isn't in that group, I've no idea. And Modric at Tottenham, I don't see Modric there. Modric has been absolutely outstanding. Again on Saturday. Did you see the game Saturday?
Yeah.
My word. Some of his touches, his movement, his desire to play the game. It's just fantastic. I love Modric. I think he's a fabulous footballer.
I think they've got the top man right there.
Yeah,
the top man's in
just
there.
About.
Yeah.
Just about. Glenn, actually to do with the individual players, a question here from Eurofootball.ru. Glenn, Arsene Wenger once said that as a footballer you were ahead of your time, and if you'd appeared in English football a decade later, you'd have been more successful. I'm sure you've been asked it before, but how did you react, or how did you feel when you heard Arsene Wenger say that about you?
Well, it's a nice compliment to have, and obviously I worked with Arsene at Monaco there, and I think it was different in our era when Ray played. As we played together. We would love to play on the pitches now that they are. The surfaces they play on are like carpets, where some of the games that we had to play on, it was like a mud bath, and if you're a creative player, which we were, it was very difficult to create. And also the back pass rule, I think, has helped the creative player, because I didn't like it when it came in, and I think it could be changed still. In the area, I think you should be able to pass back.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, it stretches the pitch, and it makes the pitch, and so the space is there. And obviously now, if you breathe on someone, you can get booked. You've had too much carbon. That's the sort of thing that. So the creative games 10 years after we played started to evolve like it is now. And yes, I think it would be more rewarding for players like Ray and myself to play now.
Has it changed? Has English football changed in the last decade, Ray, or has football generally changed?
No, I think the influx of the foreign player, our game's definitely changed. The regulations have changed, therefore the game has changed immensely. The foul, for example, now has been taken out of the game. It's a yellow card, basically. Any foul on the pitch is a yellow card. So the regulations have changed. Yes, football's changed, and I agree with Glenn. The pitches now, you have the opportunity to play with your head off the floor, which. In times gone by, your head was stuck to the floor to make sure the ball didn't bobble away.
Seeing which bobble or which bit of mud it was going to come
off. Or if Graham Souness was going to come behind you and petrify the life out of you. But that was what it was about. But now the pitches are so good that you can play with your head up off the floor, and I think that's important.
Right. You did play on carpets, of course, actually. Kenilworth Road and QPR, pretty much. Let's another question here from Joe Lang. Let's take this one to Glenn. Says some of the very best managers in the world today were never world beaters as players. Why do you think that is?
I think it shows you the difference between playing and management. They're worlds apart. They really are. It doesn't mean if you're a decent player that you turn into a good coach. I only started looking at it through a management windows when I got injured in Monaco. Right. I didn't think I'd ever stay in football management. I really didn't. And I was 31 in Monaco, had an injury for the whole year, and just started to look through different eyes, completely. And that's what sort of changed me into management. So I had a year of sort of preparing myself, if you like, before I went into management, but it was all internally. I didn't go off on courses and whatever. I just watched Monaco play, basically, and a lot of teams on television, and with a different eye. And I think you can do that as a player. Certainly I took that opportunity when I was out injured. But no, I think Bobby Moore tried it. Alan Ball had relative sort of ups and downs, didn't he? It's not a pass.
Right.
I think sometimes, Ash, as well, from the top player, when he goes into management, he finds it very difficult to understand the inability of somebody that he can't do what he did.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of top players really struggle with that. In that Alan Ball, I believe, when he went into management, wanted his team to play 1 and 2 touch. Well, Alan Ball played with half a touch. He was that good. His first touch was that good that it was almost like half a touch he played. And he couldn't accept the frailty of the guy that he was playing with. So if you can't do that, if you can't come to terms with that, then you've got a big problem.
Okay, another question, this one for you, Ray. We've talked a little bit about this already, but this is a very specific one from Philip, who says, Ray, who do you think is the better player? Is it Aaron Ramsey or is it Jack Wilshere? Who would you rather have playing in your team?
Well, unfortunately, Aaron's progress has been halted for a time, and a good time as well. He's had a nasty injury. So at this moment in time, it would be Jack Wilshere. He's very Brady-esque in the way that he plays. But Ramsey most definitely has the talent to get back up to that level again, and please God the injury doesn't take too much out of him.
Yeah, I mean, Ramsey had an amazing under-21s tournament in Wales, ended up going out to England only just, and he's a bit older than Wilshere as well.
Yeah, but he's very talented. He's very talented. He can score a goal as well.
Yeah.
You saw the area he got himself in at West Brom on Saturday. It was a little bit unfortunate, come off the bar, and he couldn't get a good enough second touch, but he's a very, very good player. I've got a lot of time for him.
Okay, last question. Time for just one more. This one's for Glenn, and it's from Gabenga X Adabija. I don't know where you're from, Gabenga, but thanks for your question. This one's for Glenn. Hi, Glenn. I'm your biggest fan ever. I used to send you birthday cards from Nigeria in the 80s until you moved to Monaco, and I've even named my first son after you. My question is, would you ever return to club management?
Well, I wouldn't say no to that. I've got to say, it's not what I'm doing with my academy and trying to give these guys that are a second chance, really, from being sort of released from clubs. It is a good concept and I'm enjoying it. But I didn't do it to replace management, no. Whether I go back into club management, possibly, I don't know. I haven't shut the door on it, but maybe international management, who knows. But at the moment, I'm pretty content on what we're doing.
Good stuff. Guys, thank you very much indeed. Unfortunately, that is all we've got time for. My great thanks, though, to Ray and to Glenn for joining us. Thank you guys very much indeed. If you do want to see how your predictions for the qualifiers would unfold and view the latest player rankings, do have a look at that website, castrolfootball.com. For now, though, thanks for joining us on Sport Talk.